welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and thanks so much for being here today. I certainly hope that you enjoy the show. Well, we're going to highlight the Ivoryton Playhouse, which is located in Ivoryton, Connecticut, and Jacqui Hubbard, the executive and artistic director, is my guest here today. And Jacqui, thanks so much for being here in the studio. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Deb.
Now, you know what? You were here in August of 2020, and as you and I have talked about, it's really important that you come back, and we're in February of 2022. How have things, let me stop. Let's talk about you first. Let's refresh the memory of the viewer. Why don't we talk about your background?
Okay. Well, I've been at the Ivoryton Playhouse, excuse me, for 30 years this year, which I have no idea how that happened. I started in '91 on the board when my children were little, and I produced children's theater and community theater. And when the Playhouse realized that they needed to become a little more professional, because at that time they were an all-volunteer organization, they hired me in '98, '99 to be the executive director. So I've been in that role since then, and the Playhouse has had many incarnations. It was a summer theater from the 1930s right up through the 90s, and since I think 2004 it's been running a year-round season, and we're very proud of that. And it had been running without hesitation until, of course, the great disaster hit. Actually, I think I was mistaken last time. I knew there'd been a year that it was closed during the Second World War, but there was also a year at the end of the 70s where they had struggled to produce a season. And now our third time closing was in 2020. But in 2021, we did manage to put on a reduced season, and we're very proud we got through that and managed to produce 5 shows with a socially distanced audience without any problems. So that was a little bit of a triumph in itself.
Well, I spent some time yesterday going over our interview that we saved on the television's website to be able to understand what we had covered before. And you had started out as a young child performing and thinking and going through education, so on and so forth, thinking that you'd be a performer. Did you think that was going to be your path?
To be honest, I always thought of myself more in your position.
Oh, okay.
When I was very young, in my early teens, I got a job with a local radio station, and we interviewed performers that came to town, famous in England. You know, there were comedians, there were singers, and I loved it, and I loved radio. And when I went off to university, that was really my plan, was to study radio journalism. I love that. And I somehow ended up in the Little Black Box Theater, and that is about as an addictive drug there is. And I never really got out of it again. But that was never my plan. My plan was always journalism and radio, which I still love.
Now, people will detect an accent. You are from England. What brought you from England to here in America?
So I came over here, yes, I'm from the north of England, and I had not traveled a lot when I was young. And when I was at university, I got the opportunity to come over here through an organization called British Universities North America Camps, and they shipped off college kids to go work in summer camps in this country. And I ended up in Philadelphia at a camp for inner city kids, and I was put in charge of the arts. So I directed a bunch of kids in all kinds of fun musicals and stories, and I had a blast, and I fell in love with this country at the time. And then a couple of years later, in the early 80s, my boyfriend at the time was hired to build the 7-mile bridge in the Florida Keys. He was one of the engineers on it. And I had graduated university, and Margaret Thatcher had been elected, and there was not a lot of opportunity in the arts at that time. So I thought I'd come over here for the summer, and I'm still here.
And you have young children at that time.
Yes.
Are they performers as well?
They're both, one of my daughters is a teacher, but she teaches movement and storytelling in Waterford, and she sings with a band. So she's got a little bit of the performer in her. My other daughter is not a performer, no. But they did grow up with that. They grew up with a lot of storytelling and music, and I think it benefited them in huge ways.
So what brought you to Ivoryton when you were in Florida, I believe, and came up to Connecticut? What brought you into Ivoryton and find the theater?
So my husband at the time was still building bridges, and we came here because he was hired to oversee the construction of the Baldwin Bridge over the Connecticut River. And it was a 3-year job. It's kind of like being in the military. You know, you come to a place and you're there for 3 years. And so we ended up here, and we bought a house in Essex. And I stumbled upon the Playhouse just one day. It was closed. It was, I think it was October, November time. And I remember asking in town, what goes on here? And they said, oh, it's closed. It's only open in the summer, when the theater is open in the summer. So I nosed my way in and begged the opportunity to use it in the winter months. And they were so trusting. They said, sure, go ahead, use it. So it was a little bit run down at the time. It was not in great shape. We have really loved it over the last, I don't know how many years, and cleaned it up and looked after it. But that was just a wonderful opportunity, just to be told, sure, there's a stage, there's a theater. What would you like to do? Oh my Lord, so many things. So.
Tell us about the history of the building and the property, and the history
Sure.
of the performers that have come through the doors.
Yeah, so the building was built in 1911, and it was essentially built as a community hall for the factory workers of the Comstock-Cheney piano factory in Ivoryton. And it was the center of the cultural life of the community. That has been the role of the Playhouse since it began. It was called the Comstock-Cheney Hall. It featured local traveling vaudeville acts. There were company dances, bingo games, basketball games. It really functioned as an ad hoc town hall for part of its life. Silent movies, we still have the license on my wall that we are allowed to present movies at the theater, which is lovely. In the 20s, when the national demand for pianos went down with the rise of movies and radio, not so many homes were needing a piano, because prior to that, in the Victorian era, every home had a piano. So yeah, production went down. The piano factory was hugely diminished in the amount of workers, and the Playhouse, the Comstock-Cheney Hall as it was at the time, was shut down. And a man called Milton Stiefel, who had been a stage manager in New York, was recuperating from a nervous breakdown in this area, and he stumbled upon the theater. It was 1929, and he rented it in 1930 as a summer theater, just to try out new works. It was really an experiment, but it took off because that second year, Katharine Hepburn showed up, and you know, the rest is history. The theater then took off and has been running continually as a theater since the 1930s.
Well, when we were together in 2020, COVID was rampant.
Yes.
And things had paralyzed your industry.
Yes.
How are things going in 2022? Maybe you want to talk about your season. How have
Sure.
things been? I know you were closed.
So 2020 was a nightmare, but good things came out of it. And I have to start focusing on the positive, because there was a lot of good things came out of it. We have taken the opportunity, a bit like being a butterfly in a chrysalis. You know, it was downtime. It was time to retreat, to think about what you were doing, to think about the value of it, and to think about how we wanted to move forward. So one of the interesting things in 2020 is I did get sent a lot of new work. And as a small theater, we're never able to do new work, or very rarely, because it's hard to sell, and we need to make money, and we need to attract an audience, and audiences are a little nervous about new works. Anyway, one of the pieces we were able to do last year, that was called The Porch on Windy Hill. And it was a wonderful little show, bluegrass music, Asian American fiddle player, a totally new and different story. And we thought, let's take a chance, let's just do it. And I'm really thrilled to say that that company, small company of 3 of them and a director, they wrote the piece, they workshopped it in Ivoryton, is happening this weekend at the New Ohio Theater in New York for another workshop presentation. But I think really it might have a life going forward, and I'm thrilled that we were a springboard for that. So also in 2020, I got sent an album by a young man called Jeff Blaney out of Granby, Connecticut, who plays Irish music. A pub performer, but you know, a wonderful musician. And he had written a concept album which he sent to me. And we spent 2021 working on it with a writer friend of mine, Larry Thielen, and we are going to open our season with it. We're very excited about it. It is called Star of Freedom, and it is set in Civil War America, and it tells the story of a young man from Ireland who comes over during the potato famine, and a young woman, an African-American woman on a plantation, and how their stories connect. And it has wonderful original music by Jeff Blaney in Irish tradition and a gospel soul tradition. I just was in New York casting it, and I think we have a cast. So I'm now starting to get this much excited about starting up with something new. The wonderful thing about the play is it takes time. It takes place during a time of great unrest in this country, the worst kind of unrest. And yet these 2 people manage to connect and make a way forward. And they're looking for a home in America, is the story. And I think it has an element of hope that we all kind of need right now. So I'm hoping that resonates, and that people will come and be able to be open to a new story, to wonderful music, and leave with that hope that there's something good here that's in all of us and that we can connect to.
Okay, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Contact tracing is one of the best voluntary ways to stop the spread of COVID-19, and information provided will be kept private. But imposters might pretend to be contact tracers to get access to your personal information or money. Real contact tracers will never ask for your social security number or financial information. You'll receive text or emails from contact tracers only if you have opted in. If you don't recognize the tracer's phone number, contact your local health department. To learn more about contact tracing, please visit portal.ct.gov/coronavirus/contact.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I am Deborah Gilbert, your host. And again, thanks so much for being here. Well, we continue on to talk about the Ivoryton Playhouse, which is located in Ivoryton, Connecticut, and my conversation continues with Jacqui Hubbard. And Jacqui, we were talking before the show started that you audition the cast in New York City, and I really didn't realize that. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, we are under a union contract with Actors Equity, and so in a normal year, I hold auditions for the season in Ivoryton, and then for each show, I go into the city. So on a large show, I might have some local people and then some professional actors. But with the situation the way it is right now, our shows are a little smaller, so most of our actors are coming from the, well, actually, not just the city. I had video submissions at first. So I'm actually bringing one actor in from Detroit, one actor from Minnesota, and the other 4, I think, are coming from New York City for the first show. So
why don't we take a moment? Let's talk about your
sure.
season. We're in 2022, and you're going to kick off in April, right?
We are. We're kicking off April 7th with Star of Freedom. We used to do a 7-show season with a community show, and we're streamlining it this year to a 6-show season, but with longer runs. We are bringing in some of the shows that we canceled in 2020 because we still had the casts in place, we had the designs, we had everything ready to go. So I'm really thrilled that we're able to do that. So it's I see it as a kind of coming together season for us. It's you know, making it feel comfortable for people when they come in, comfortable for actors, comfortable. It's a season for not being wildly out there and taking huge risks, but some comfort food in this season. So yes, so Star of Freedom is April 7th, and that's going to run till May 1st. One of the shows that we were going to produce in 2020 was called Native Gardens. It's by a Latina writer, Karen Zacharias. That's going to open on May 19th, and it runs into June. And it's a wonderful comedy, battles over gardens, but it's really deeper than just the gardens. There is, you know, an organic young couple who are into their native garden, Latino couple, and an older conservative white couple who have a very structured garden, and it's very funny, has a deeper message. Again, which is where we're going this year, they work it out. And so it's an upbeat ending of a chaotic comedy of manners. We're following that with a show that I did actually 20 years ago, and I had so much fun with it. We're bringing it back, and that's Smokey Joe's Cafe, the music of Lieber and Stoller, which is all those great hits of the 50s and 60s. My associate artistic director, Todd Underwood, is directing that, and Todd has a great eye for talent, and he's a phenomenal dancer choreographer, so I know he's going to do something different with this show, but that should be a lot of fun for the summer. Do you want me to run? Shall I keep going? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Another show that we canceled in 2020 was Ring of Fire, the Johnny Cash musical. So David Lutkin, who was one of the writers of The Porch on Windy Hill that we did last year, is coming back with his crew for Ring of Fire. Again, that's comfort food because everybody loves Johnny Cash and that whole country sound. And several of these performers have been at the Playhouse before, so they're kind of like family to us. So that will be fun to have them back. Smokey Joe's runs through July, and then August and into September is Ring of Fire. And the third show from our 2020 season that we're bringing back is The Great Gatsby. This was a very popular show when we advertised it because, of course, schools are interested in Gatsby, so we'll be doing a lot of performances for schools. And it's an interesting adaptation. It's a smaller cast version. Simon Levy did the adaptation. Beautifully done. There will be music, underscoring with that whole Roaring Twenties feel. Of course, it was more appropriate in 2020. We wanted to hit the Roaring Twenties, but it's okay. 2022 is still the Roaring Twenties. And we're going to actually use that show as our fundraiser. So we will be doing a Great Gatsby Gala at some point during that run. So that will be a lot of fun. We'll all get a chance to dress up and dance. Then we're closing the season with The Winter Wonderettes. We had done a play called The Marvelous Wonderettes years ago, very popular. It's for young women, set in the 60s, with a lot of 60s music. And the original one was their high school days. The Winter Wonderettes is, they're a little older, they're in their 20s, but it's going to be classic Christmas music. It's a comedy, a lot of audience interaction, and a nostalgic feel to it. So I think that will be a nice way to wrap up the season.
Speaking of the audience, are people coming back? I mean, theater is one big genre, but I mean, are people coming back to your theater to see what you have to perform?
Well, we sincerely hope so. Last year we did social distance seating, which meant that we normally have 280 seats. I think we had about 130 something last year. And we did have people come back, but it was not a barometer on whether the whole 280 will come back. But a good sign is that we started selling subscriptions, and we've sold, I think, 718 to date. So single tickets will be going on sale March 1st. Subscriptions are on sale right now. And I'm hoping that we are inundated with phone calls, that people are desperate to come out.
Tell us about the website before we forget. What will people find when they go to visit you there?
Well, they're going to find a brand new website. That's another thing about having some downtime. We are still in the process of restructuring it, but when single tickets go on sale March 1st, that should be all done with a completely new look. You'll be able to find out all the information about the shows. You'll be able to purchase single tickets on the website. We are working on, fingers crossed it will be up and running by then, but we've been working with a young woman who's an archivist over the period of the last year, and she has been archiving playbills and memorabilia from the 30s, and she's up to the 80s now. So when it's finally done, you'll be able to click on any year and see all the shows that were done, be able to look at the playbills, be able to see news articles about the shows. So that is going to be terrific when that's finished.
Local people, can they audition? Can they do anything behind the scenes? How does the community get involved with you?
So every show we do right now, our first round of auditions is videos. So we ask, and we put it up on our website, send a video submission. We tell them what we're looking for, either a clip of a song, or we will have a scene that they can read. So that's the first round of auditions. So yes, absolutely local people can audition. And we are always looking for technical help. Right, currently we're looking for a technical director for the season, and that's a full-time salaried position. But also each show requires sound designers, projection designers, build crew, carpenters. So anybody who's interested in getting involved can just drop us a line. They could certainly send it to me at jhubbard@ivorytonplayhouse.org. You'll find that on the website. Just drop us a line and we will definitely contact you, because we really want to find a good base of local people. This is a theater in our community, and the base should be people in our community.
As we start to move towards a little bit of running out of time, what does the future look like for the theater? 2022, 23, 24, what do you want to accomplish?
Well, this year we want to accomplish the year. We want to get through the season. We want to welcome people back. We want people to come and say, I love that. I want to come back for more. That's my hope. And my hope also is that we get enough feedback from people that we're going in the right direction. That this theater that has been a home in their community still has that place. That people are not afraid to come out, that when they come they feel like family, that they want to share experiences with other people, not just sit home and watch Netflix. That COVID hasn't scared us all silly into hibernation, that we're a part of this family of man and we want to be out together sharing experiences, and that they want to share them at the Playhouse.
Parking, housing, what is it like? Because I drive by and the theater looks it's not large.
No, it's not.
And the community is not large.
Right.
Where do people go to be able to be a part of the theater?
Yes, so we have, the nice thing about Ivoryton, I always think, when you go to a theater in the city, you're driving around looking for parking garages, you know, it can be difficult, especially for the buses, for the seniors. Ivoryton is easy off of Route 9, even 95. We're easy to get to. We have a big parking lot opposite. We have a park next to us with parking spots. We have street parking. We've never had a problem with that. We do have a problem with housing, and in fact, a big part of the theater in the community was housing actors in the community. Often families opened their doors and welcomed actors to live with them. We always are in need of housing for actors. We do have a house, but it's not big enough. And of course, in these times when people are ultra careful about you know, sharing spaces, bathrooms, kitchens, we're more than ever in need of spaces for actors, little apartments, mother-in-law apartments. If anybody has a mother-in-law apartment that they're willing to rent to us or whatever for the run of a show, we would be eternally grateful. So.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being here. We've run out of time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Deb.
Well, you've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a super day today. I'll see you next time.